Well, Dorothy, great to have you on the show. I guess we should start this on-air conversation by me declaring that you gave me my first job in television many years ago, and I think my producer Rosie was determined to get a picture of me aged 27 or 28 up on the screen, and there it is. So, Dorothy, you and I have known each other for a long time. I've made documentaries for you over the years, though, of course, no longer, because you're no longer at Channel 4 and I'm now at GBNews. But I thought we should get that out there on the record. It's great to have you on the show.
And what a gorgeous creature you were. And I'm sure you still are.
Key word there, were. My producers just said to me in my ear. Crikey. Can we talk now about the future of one of Britain's most important broadcasting organisations, which is Channel 4? Dorothy, do you see any logic in the case that the government is making to privatise Channel 4? Any merit at all?
It doesn't make sense, but I can see there might be some sense in allowing Channel 4 to borrow some money. I don't think it needs to borrow vast amounts of money to try to rival Netflix and Amazon, which is one of the things Nadine Dorries has said. It will never rival either of those two organisations, but it might be good to give it some leeway to borrow some money in some fashion. But I don't think, because that is a good idea potentially, that we should throw out the whole model, which has been massively successful, both in terms of producing great programmes made by people like you, Liam, and also in producing a fantastically successful independent television sector. Independent television companies were created by the creation of Channel 4. And Channel 4 is still a really important part in seeding new independent production companies. And this sector produces literally billions of pounds for the country. So I personally don't see a good argument for messing with something which costs the taxpayer nothing and makes lots of money for the economy.
OK, let me ask you a question, Dorothy. Let's grasp this nettle. A question that's personal to both of us. I spent many years at Channel 4 News. Do you think Channel 4 News has been too biased in recent years? Do you think that might be one reason why the Conservatives want to privatise Channel 4? And if that is one of their reasons, have they got a point?
I don't think that's the reason. I think that's a red herring, and that the truth is that this is part of what's also happening with questions being asked about the BBC licence fee. It's throwing a bit of red meat to right-wing supporters of Boris Johnson who are not very happy with him at the moment. And these look like simple knee-jerk solutions, like, privatisation is always good. Well, sometimes it is good and sometimes it isn't. With regard to Channel 4 being biased, of course, that is a claim made by some right-wing Conservatives. Lots of Conservative MPs, by the way, absolutely love Channel 4 News. And I would say it's more watched by Conservative MPs, in my experience, than it is by Labour MPs. They really enjoy the 1 hour, the in-depth international coverage. When people have made these claims, what you have to do is look at the regulator and what the regulator has said about Channel 4 News and current affairs. And the regulator has not said that it is prejudiced. It's cheeky, and may I point out, Boris Johnson is cheeky. So when Boris Johnson failed to turn up for a climate change debate, he was instead, substituted for by a large block of ice. Well, that made the point of empty chairing him in a cheeky way. But the regulator said, well, that's Channel 4's right to be cheeky. And I like the idea of being cheeky to our politicians. It's similar to a cheeky cartoon. It's not a political statement. We were just emphasising the point in a witty and original way that he didn't turn up.
Dorothy, what would you say to the charge which some government ministers are making that Channel 4 as a whole isn't what it was when it started in the early 1980s, throughout the 80s, 90s? There were, Dispatches, a major strand of documentaries, which I've made films for in the past, which you oversaw. It used to be, really chunky 1 hour films. We used to have cutting edge, literally, documentaries on Channel 4. Now it's soaps and it's naked attraction. So Channel 4 has kind of dropped the ball in terms of its public service remit. Do you think there's some truth in that, as a former documentary maker yourself?
Well, I still make documentaries, actually. The past always looks like a better place, especially when we see photos of ourselves when we're young. But actually, two of the best things that I was ever involved in my whole history in television were, firstly, For Sama, which was a fantastic Oscar-nominated documentary about Syria. And the other was the terrific investigation carried out by Channel 4 News into Cambridge Analytica, an investigation which was cited round the world and discussed in the US Senate. It was one of massive influence. At the moment, I've just finished making a 3-part series for Channel 4 about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, a really difficult, expensive, thoughtful television series. My last project for Channel 4 was a lengthy program about Navalny. So, no, I think it is still up there doing great things. Just in some ways, it's harder now to break through and be different because there's so much out there on the internet. But there's still a massive role for Channel 4 News that isn't being fulfilled elsewhere, and for its current affairs and documentaries.
Dorothy Byrne, thanks for your time. This is a debate that will rumble on. It's great to have you on the money here on GB News. Dorothy Byrne there, the former head of news and current affairs at Channel 4. Thanks for joining us. Max.